Our daughters were not on the first floor. They were up on the second floor. And the baby monitor went off. My daughter was crying. And I was getting up to go tend to her. And he's like, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to go check on the baby." And he said, "No, I need you to take care of me first."
Whoa.
And I said, "I will do that. I got to go check on the baby." And then out comes a gun. He held it to my head. I was on my knees. I had to fillet him. And then I could go check on my crying baby.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
You will say yes, and we'll discuss this later.
Wow.
So I said yes.
And did you ever discuss it later?
No. We were married within 2 weeks.
What was the rush?
Because we were being transferred, and if we were married, then all of my stuff would get moved in and they'd pay for everything, and we would be moving a household as one.
I mean, listen, so when I chose to get married,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get married, you know, again, I was my wife is younger than me, and I wanted to get married, or she wanted to have the big wedding.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to have the big wedding. I even proposed to her. I said, "Look, we'll have what you want."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Let's go down and get married." It was a financial decision. So
Right.
I had good insurance. I was a police officer at the time. So I wanted to get her all my insurance because she was paying for insurance at the time. Afterwards, after the marriage, and listen, I loved my wedding and everything, but after the wedding, she actually turned to me and she goes, "Yeah, we should have done it your way too, and it probably would have saved a lot of money." But but again, I'm conscious enough to know that I can't force this. Like, it's just not in me to force this. I want you to marry me. I really, with all my heart, I want you to marry me, but I can't force this.
Right.
It has to be your decision. It has to, you know, I can ask, but the answer has to come with your heart.
Right.
And she's regretted it ever since.
I doubt that.
Yeah, 17 years later. Poor girl. So you get married. It's like, you know, so let's save the relationship and have a baby. How many times you heard that one?
I have a daughter.
Yeah.
I thought that would do it.
Yeah.
That will calm him down.
If a child doesn't change a person, you're pretty sure that nothing's ever going to change a person. Because a child changed me 100%.
Well, if I had been thinking of things logically, well, first off, we wouldn't even be having this discussion, but he had a daughter from a previous marriage.
But you almost get Stockholm Syndrome. So the whole Patty Hearst thing, you know,
Right.
you become institutionalized inside the relationship where you believe all this bullshit that he's saying.
And plus, I want to protect his daughter because she lives with us.
Right. And you grow to love them. And
Absolutely.
so now you're stuck in this relationship, hoping that it'll get better, trying to look for the good in him, saying,
Yes.
"Oh, I can change him. I can do all this stuff." So how did it progress to the... What's the worst thing, other than him still taking sexual favors at his behest? The key component to any law enforcement officer being the best version of themselves is through education. Sherry Alsop is a leader in providing that education to police agencies, preparing them for the all too frequent dealings with sexual assault victims.
You've seen Sherry on episode 169 of the Suffering Podcast. She survived incest and almost daily sexual assault, so she comes from a place of experience and true understanding.
Sherry has the intelligence, commitment, and compassion to open the eyes of those on the front lines, while providing the tools to effectively deal with a difficult situation. Sherry's instruction comes from experience and multiple certifications.
Training with Sherry will offer on-site training, customized schedules, specialized instruction, tailored from a victim's perspective.
You are going to hear Sherry's heart-wrenching but inspiring survivor story. Learn proprietary trauma-informed training techniques, uncovered victim-centered interview methods while earning continuing education credits according to your state guidelines. To be the best, you must learn from the best. Let Sherry also guide you through the delicate cases of sexual assault from a victim's point of view.
Be a source of comfort to those victims affected by these traumatic experiences while producing a solid investigation and uncovering details that often go unnoticed.
To find out more or to contact Sherry Alsop, go to sherryalsop.com. That's SHERRIEALLSUP.com.
I don't know what the worst thing. I mean, he would choke me, and I would eke out, "You're choking me." And he said, "I'm not choking you. This is a submission hold."
I've never choked. I've choked out my children. No, I've never choked that much. I've wanted to, but I've never done it.
I've been thrown through a wall.
How big was this guy?
He really wasn't that big. I mean, he was like, I don't know, 5'9", 5'10", average build. He wasn't like he was in school. He played tennis.
So at the end of this, we're going to take a picture together, and you'll be able to. I'm 6'3", 6'4", depending on how much I'm shrinking, and you'll be able to see how big Yvonne is. You're not very tall. You're petite, I guess, would be your build.
Yeah.
For a man to throw a woman, listen, there's nobody in the world that can aggravate you like a woman. And I think every guy on the planet, listen, truth hurts. I'm sorry.
Yep.
There is nobody in the world that can get you going. And there's been, where you'll see a guy do this, because you don't know what to do. You know
Yeah.
you can't. But there's a part of you that we're like,
Yeah.
if I just one pass, one pass. But cooler heads prevail.
Yes.
And and then you start thinking about it. You're like, well, what's that prove?
Yeah.
Number one, I'm going to go to jail. You just beat up a woman,
Yeah.
which never looks good.
No.
But I do know some women that could kick my ass. So what's the value of doing that? And I never understood that. I never got into that person who consistently abuses their spouse.
Yeah.
Both sides.
Right.
Now, women spousal abuse, that's a whole different thing. That's more of a, if they get a guy that knows that and it's not going to hit back, and they just start.
Right.
That happens as well. So he would throw you, he would choke you. Any punches? Any other?
Punch me. He didn't like. He would try not to leave too many marks. So nothing in the face, anything like that.
That's what I tell my wife. Nothing in the face.
That's it.
I got to be on camera. Nothing in the face.
I've been pulled by my hair down the stairs.
And you got a thick head of hair. That's
Yeah.
like a lot to grab onto.
That's a lot to grab onto.
Wow.
And I've been stabbed with an ice pick.
Stabbed.
With an ice pick, yeah.
Whoa, hold on. We need to dissect that one a
Yeah.
little bit. How? What? Talk about that, please, because not everybody gets stabbed with an ice pick and lives.
It was an argument. Well, he got me. It's right down here. So again, you can't really see it. I was going up to defend myself, and he just whipped around, and I didn't even know he had it.
What did he grab an ice pick for? Was it an argument?
I have I don't even know when it happened. I don't know how he got it. I don't know where it came from.
And who grabs first of all, who has an ice pick? All right, that's the first thing we got to dissect. This is 1990, okay? Unless you're living in the 1920s, you don't have an ice pick. There's no need for an ice pick. So what do you got an ice pick for?
Yeah, I don't know.
And he stabs you with an ice pick.
Stabbed me with an ice pick.
Did
and
you-
I was afraid. It was so funny because I thought about calling numerous times, and I had a friend I could confide in, and I will never forget. She said, "This is Colorado Springs, and if they get a domestic violence call, both people get taken in. Period. That is standard." And I had a young baby, and I did not want that baby getting taken into the state's hands, even if it was just for a couple of hours, till we could get this all sorted out. So I never called the cops.
So did you white knuckle through the pain?
Did?
You didn't go to the hospital or anything?
No.
All right, Pat, get rid of your ice picks, man, because they don't work. Holy cow.
Well, you know what they say. You can't trust anything that can bleed 7 days and live.
This is truth hurts. I'm gonna keep doing those callbacks on that. It had to get pretty. So there's some rotten stuff coming out right now.
Oh, yeah.
That
That wasn't even the worst of it. But yeah.
So let's dissect up until this point. Rape, physical violence, choking, hair pulling, stabbed, and you're telling me that's not the worst.
No.
So what was the worst thing that was ever done to you?
The worst thing that was ever done was we had just been approved for on-base housing. Officers' quarters opened up, and we moved in on base. And
I know this is, let me pause for a second because I know this is very difficult for you to talk about. And I do appreciate you talking about it. My hope with all of this is not to make you feel uncomfortable. My hope with all of this is somebody who is stuck in your past situation
Absolutely.
has some strength in order to say, you know what, Yvonne got out of it. Let me reach out to her. Let me see how she got out.
Absolutely.
Reach out. That's what I want.
100%. And I would welcome that, because if I can help somebody not go through this, then
Your pain wasn't in vain.
exactly.
Yeah.
We were in a house that was a split level, and we had taken actually a family room downstairs and turned it into the master bedroom. And our daughters were not on the first floor, they were up on the second floor. And the baby monitor went off. My daughter was crying, and I was getting up to go tend to her, and he's like, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to go check on the baby." And he said, "No, I need you to take care of me first." Whoa. And I said, "I will do that. I got to go check on the baby." And then out comes a gun. He held it to my head. I was on my knees. I had to fillet him. And then I could go check on my crying baby. That was the worst.
This is a special place in hell for this guy.
Yeah.
Okay? Anybody that... There's a young child that's in need. Okay?
Yep.
Aside from the damage that is being done to you, which is awful, there's a young baby who needs care.
Yeah.
They're vulnerable. They're helpless.
Yeah.
They need us. And here this guy is thinking only about his needs. So he is a classic narcissist. I don't think that's being slanderous
No.
in order to say that.
No. And it got worse because by about that time,
Well, did that excite him maybe?
apparently.
You know what I'm saying?
mean,
Like
yeah.
some people get off on that. There's a fetish for every walk of life.
Yeah.
One thing about me is I have a lot of friends who have gone through bad marriages, and I always talk to them and I say, okay, what's their deal?
Right.
Okay, because their reality is perfectly sane to them.
Right.
To the outside world, it's insane.
It's crazy, right.
But in their own mind, like, this is normal.
Normal.
This is something that happens.
Yeah.
And it's only after you get removed and you look at it how insane this is. So that he's putting his own gratification in front of his child. This is his child.
Right.
I don't
And
understand.
plus, I mean, you know what a climax is like. And if you've got your finger on the trigger of a gun that's pointing at somebody else's head while you're going through
It's called
that,
sympathetic trigger.
it's just like, is this thing going to go off?
Mm-hmm. Boy. So that's pretty bad. I gotta be honest with you. That might be one of the worst things I've heard in a long time. I've heard some awful shit in here. How long did this go on for?
It went on, that kind of, in a way, it became a turning point. Not so much because of me, but because his daughter from his first marriage was starting to act out. At first, we thought it was jealousy. New baby in the house. Makes perfect sense. But it went beyond that. She actually actively started trying to hurt me and the baby.
How old was his daughter?
5. 5. There was one time I was coming down the stairs carrying the baby, and out of the blue, from behind, reached over, and I got hit in the back of the head with a hockey stick. Downstairs I go. That was the 5-year-old.
I would assume that she's learning behavior on, this is how you treat somebody.
Yes. Well, that's when we started. So that we got her into therapy, And it seemed like it was getting worse. And she was acting out even more. And then she started drawing pictures on her walls of graves, of cars with bodies on them, you know.
Listening to a lot of The Cure,
Yeah.
you know.
And we found out that it came through. So let me back up. He thought I was overreacting. It was like, she's really, you know, she's drawing these pictures. She's acting out against me, against the baby. We're getting her into therapy. She's still drawing the pictures. And then one day, he comes into her room, and she's drawing a car with a body on it. And he said, "What is that? Who is that?" And she said, "That's you."
Was he abusing her?
That's what we found out once, because we called the therapist. The therapist said she needs to go in to, you know, and I'm
Was
getting
he physically or sexually abusing
I'm
her?
getting a little ahead of myself on this, but basically we found out through her that she was being physically abused. Now, from what I remember of everything and what I could gather, it wasn't going on while I was with him. It predated me. But she would recount stories of being in a dog crate, because you could, you know, by she's describing it, she was in a box that had holes all over it and a door.
Mm-hmm.
And she would talk to the therapist about how she would have to dodge because a knife would just randomly poke through the holes. And she was dodging these obstacles.
No, your husband at the time, was he married prior to you?
Yes,
Okay. Did you ever get in contact with the first wife?
I did. After I left, after we split up, I did.
And what was her? What did she say?
She was abused as well.
So you were just the target, and when the first wife wasn't there, it was the daughter, and when you came into the picture, you were the target.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming there's probably a target after you.
Oh, yeah. Well, based on what I've heard, yeah.
You know, because this is somebody who is a predator.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes.
So we go back and forth, We're in the courts. There's guardian ad litem. There's this, there's that. And there's a huge blow up. We had friends over, and he was drunk, and he was getting abusive. And so his friend took him out into the garage, and I sat with the wife, and we're talking. And she said, "You got to get out." She said, "You haven't gotten out for you, for whatever reason, but now you've got that baby. You've got to get out. Because if he's gone after his first daughter and he's gone after you, it's only a matter of time."
So that person, whoever that was, I'm a big believer there's certain angels in your life.
Yeah.
And that person was an angel to you because they recognized your blind spot.
Yeah.
Because you probably at this point were in protective mode, in self-survival.
Right.
You weren't thinking that.
Oh, yeah.
But now all of a sudden she just woke you up to your blind spot, and it's bigger than you.
Yeah.
You know, and a parent who looks at their child for the first time and doesn't know what pure, true love is should never be a parent. They should give the baby up for adoption, give the baby a shot. Mm-hmm. Because I know every parent who looks at their child, real parents, they feel the same thing. And now this is bigger than you. Yeah. But how much strength did it have to take for you to push the button, pull the pin, and actually leave him? Like, what was that day like?
She said, "Do you have someplace to go? Because I'm not going to leave this house until you and your baby are out." And so I had friends. We were living in Colorado Springs. I had friends in Denver, and we went to Denver. I called them and said, can we come stay with you for a while? And That's what started the whole transitioning of it, of getting out of that.
So his daughter is in a facility.
Yes.
Okay, so she's safe. Now you take your child so you can be safe. What kind of retribution did you get from him?
I finally resettled because I was working in Colorado Springs. So I had to go back because that's a big commute to do. And I, was making decent money. I was able to get a place on my own. And he would stalk. He would stalk me. And he would be at the daycare. He wanted nothing. He didn't want to see his daughter. The whole time we were separated, before the divorce proceedings started, he did not want to have anything to do with her. And the minute, we file for a divorce, then all of a sudden it's, well, I've got my rights and I want to see him, this, that, and the other. And I was able to get supervised visits through the court. And that became a whole other nightmare in and of itself.
So the one thing that I do know about narcissists don't have relationships. They have possessions.
Correct.
And you were his possession.
Correct.
And I'll be damned if I'm going to let my possession leave.
Correct.
Like, how dare you? If he left you, it would be a different story.
Right.
But since you left him, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So I would call the police. They said you should get a restraining order so that because he's got no reason to come around here. Supervised visits, it's neutral location. There's no reason for him to be here.